Hello, good morning. We are reading The Mystery of History of Volume 4. We're on page 257. It seems like we've skipped, but we haven't. We've just gone a few pages because we're now into the next semester. And there were a little couple in between pages. All right. Quarter 3, it says The Wars of the World from 1903 to 1945. Miss Hobart says she wants to draw your attention to this time period and notice that we're stepping into, she says the 20th century, but I don't like to say that. As you know, I like to just call it the 1900s because when you say 20th century, immediately the number 20 pops into your mind. But we're not in the 20s, we're in the 19s. So,
the 21 centuries.
We have started this volume. In fact, Cal, you didn't even start with us. It's been so long since we've been reading this. We started back in volume 1 with Cruz. Cruz, that was...
I remember we used to read at rest time, right before we went to take a rest.
Yes, and it was 6 years ago. We've been reading this for a long time.
We've been reading it since 2018.
Not hurrying. And we've gone from creation, but that's a long time to cover in history, a long period of history from creation to now, 1900 years plus 4,000 before that. So that's almost 6,000 years we've been covering in history. It's a long time to cover.
But surprisingly, it hasn't taken us 6,000 years.
Thankfully. Let's see. Most of the lessons in quarter 3 will revolve around the devastating global conflicts. We'll look at World War I, World War II, and we'll have to get acquainted with 5 dictators: Vladimir Lenin, Benito Mussolini, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, Emperor Hirohito. And by the way, it's okay.
Wasn't Adolf Hitler the worst?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to look.
I would vote him as the worst.
You haven't even looked at the other ones yet.
Right.
Okay, let's see. We'll also look at the Irish Civil War and the Spanish Civil War, and we'll look at how some of the nations dealt with the Great Depression. So, and that is not too far from us because our... and then we'll also look at some other things. Helen Keller, Albert Einstein, Mahatma Gandhi, Wilbur and Orville Wright from North Carolina. Oh, they're not from North Carolina, but they flew in North Carolina. And let's see, the race to the South Pole, the Cold War. Oh, our first one is going to be on Wilbur and Orville Wright in 1903. Oh, and she makes it a little rhyme. Wilbur and Orville Wright. Take flight. Okay. Did you notice this date? She said, again, we're finally moving into the 1900s. She can't think of a better one to move in with. These 2 brothers from Ohio to take us places we've never been before. Flying on in. The Wright brothers successfully launched and controlled and sustained the first manned and motorized airplane. They and their foreign competitors would teach mankind to travel faster and farther than they've ever dreamed. The story of the Wright brothers really goes back to their mother, Susan. She was a curious child from Indiana, and she enjoyed tinkering with tools in her father's carriage shop. As a young wife and mother, Susan built her own simple appliances and created mechanical toys for her 5 children. That's impressive.
They didn't need to go to the store.
She just built them. Robot, you say? One moment. Of course, they probably did. I don't know. They may not have had the word robot then. You could say that she was one of the first who influenced Wilbur and Orville toward gadgetry. But their father also had something to do with their interest in flight because he was the one who gave the boys their first toy helicopter. Actually, it was a rubber band-powered flying machine designed by a Frenchman. So they didn't even have helicopters back then, and he gave them a toy helicopter.
Leonardo da Vinci designed a helicopter.
Like most boys, the brothers played with their toy until it broke. But unlike most boys, they built another one to replace it. Wilbur, he was born in Indiana. He was the most outgoing of the brothers. It says, and his father's favorite. I wonder how they knew that, and that's so weird for a parent to have a favorite, in my opinion. You should not have a favorite. As a good student and athlete, Wilbur's future seemed to be promising. He prepared himself to attend Yale University. Unfortunately, he had a bad accident playing ice hockey, and he retreated to a more solitary life. Wilbur poured himself into reading and didn't bother to receive his high school diploma. So he earned it, but he chose not to go to the graduation to go pick it up, I guess, which is kind of like me. I did not go pick up any of my college degrees. I only went to get my high school one because my parents took me, and after that long drawn out thing, I was like, whoa, never want to go to one of these again.
So you have it, you just didn't go to get it?
Yeah, I have it. If you don't attend the ceremony, they mail it to you. I don't know if they mailed it to him. I don't know if that was the policy back in the 1800s. But the policy now is if you don't attend the graduation, they will mail it to you. So I do have it. He chose instead to be the primary caregiver for his mother because she was sick, and then she passed away in 1889. Orville, he was the younger brother. I wonder how they came up with these names. He was born in Ohio. This was after the family moved. This was in Dayton, Ohio, and he was a bit mischievous. Orville was bright, meaning smart, but difficult. It says difficult to reel in. I don't know what that means. He never graduated from high school. He missed some credit. She said he never graduated from high school either. So I'm wondering if that means that Wilbur did not actually graduate. Okay. But he had great aptitude. So graduating means you get a diploma. If you just don't go to the ceremony, you still get your diploma. It looks like neither of them actually graduated, which means they don't get a diploma. Orville was fun and charming around his family, but in public he was a bit shy. Together, yes?
Sorry to interrupt, but is Orville the one with the mustache?
Yes. Here he is with a healthy mustache. Nice and full. Together, the Wright brothers made a great team. Orville was intelligent and a good spokesman. Wilbur. Strike that. Wilbur was intelligent and a good spokesman. Orville was energetic and creative. Their business venture was a print shop. They used a printing press that they built themselves, of course. They soon branched into bicycle rental and repair. That led to their invention of a new bicycle that they named the Van Cleve. The bike business was successful enough to fund their growing interest in human flight. Now, before I get into the details of their gliders and planes, remember when we went to the Kitty Hawk where they flew?
Yeah.
Let's talk about human flight. I suppose every kid in the world thinks about flying. I'm not sure I did. Did you? Have you thought about flying as a kid?
No.
Look at the birds and Yes.
I just imagine myself in gunning stations.
Oh, y'all do imagine, though, like flying cars, because she says, look at the birds and most of us wish we could fly. The hope of human flight goes way back. Leonardo da Vinci drew pictures of flying machines in the 1400s, but none of his gadgets were built. The first known manned liftoff, meaning an actual thing that was built, was a hot air balloon built by the French. It was designed by the Montgolfier brothers. In 1783, they experimented with their first launching of a sheep, a duck, and a rooster. After the hot air balloons, Otto Lilienthal of Germany, he piloted a glider, and he made a few short trips between 1891 and 96. But he died in a fatal crash in one of his own gliders. Sad.
Who?
Otto Lilienthal.
Oh.
Now, so when Wilbur and Orville started their research, they were following the lead of those before them. They studied George Cayley, Samuel Langley, Octave Chanute. It was actually the death of Otto Lineal in the glider that prompted them to study flight more seriously. For several years, the brothers experimented with gliders on the famous sandy ground near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Woo! North Carolina! All right, since the pilot at that time was to lie on his belly on the lower wing, they specifically worked on the issue of manual control by the pilot. So there was no power used to fly it. It was driven by the wind. So controlling the glider, it could be the difference between life and death. The Wright brothers were not satisfied with the results of their first two gliders, and it cost them no more than $15 apiece. On a discouraging trip home to Ohio, Wilbur said to Orville that man would fly one day, but probably not in their lifetime. Oh, he was so wrong. The brothers picked themselves up, theorized a little harder, and built a wind tunnel in their shop in Ohio to study air pressure. They used the wind tunnel to run hundreds of tests on different shapes of miniature wings, and their research paid off. In 1902, they returned to Kitty Hawk with a bigger, better, and heavier glider, and this one had a movable rudder. Here's the picture, although we saw the actual thing. I don't know, it was a model of it. It was wildly successful. I always find that phrase interesting. Wildly successful. And passed the test of a flight 1,000 times. Uh-oh. Excuse me. So before leaving Kitty Hawk that year, they vowed to add power to their model glider. They were trying to build a motorized airplane. The Wrights' new machine was called Wright Flyer 1, and it cost them $1,000. A lot of money back then.
It's a lot of money today.
Don't just throw that around. They made their own gasoline engine from scratch. It had a 40-foot wingspan and it weighed about 600 pounds. It would seem a miracle to defy gravity, this heavy machine, but the Wrights were confident and believed they would fly. On December 17th, in 1903, Orville had the pleasure of piloting the first liftoff with Wilbur running alongside him. He covered 120 feet in 12 seconds. Wilbur piloted the craft the same day in their 4-man flights that cold afternoon. His was the longest covered. It made 852 feet in 59 seconds. It was just 1 second away from a full minute of flight. As a side note, this is something Miss Hobar finds really cool. She discovered numerous YouTube videos. She said this is the first time she found the original moving film. Motion pictures were invented in 1890. It's one thing to read about them, but it's another thing to see them captured on film, walking around their early models of planes, spinning propellers. Please take time to see the old silent footage. It's a reminder that 1903 was not that long ago. Here they are right here. So we walked down that very thing to see. It looked different clearly because there's a lot of grass there now where they flew it. Remember when we walked down to mark out? I'm trying to figure out if we should stop here. I think we should. I don't want to rush down through we only have about a page and a half left of Orville and Wilbur. And then we're moving on to Helen Keller. Yay.
Yay.
Okay, we will. So these, okay, well, we'll stop there. All right, goodbye.